Spoiler alert, Salazar is Diana's son. There we are, there's the big revelation. Hopefully it was a revelation, hopefully you didn't see it coming and it was a satisfying surprise. I, all the way through from the very beginning, when I was even planning the novel before chapter 1, that was always going to be the case. He was always going to turn out to be her son. And I hope that in the flashbacks, in the 3 flashback chapters, which I've peppered throughout the novel up to this point, there are a couple of clues there, and I don't know, I hope it was not completely predictable. Anyway, there we are. That's the twist at the end of this 3rd quarter of the book, and sets up the scene, as well as the fact that, the ship's going to dive into a planet and everyone's going to die. So that sets the stage for the 4th and final part of the book, the final 13 chapters, which I'm really excited about fleshing out this fledgling relationship and seeing where it goes with Salazar, aka Albert, and Diana from here, as well as what happens next with the ship on a headlong collision course with the nearest planet. As I said, it was always the plan for Salazar to be Diana's son. I've been thinking about parenthood and fathers and sons and mothers and sons and daughters recently, as it happens, while writing this chapter. Just recently seen the film A Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood, which really got to me and it affected me quite deeply. It's I'm not spoiling anything to say it's about an embittered journalist's relationship with his deadbeat dad, and how Mr. Rogers plays a part in what happens next. And it really resonated with me because I had a dad who left when I was 6, and so there is this scene in the movie where the journalist's dad, the grandfather figure, who's been a very poor father, apologises and tells the son that he always loved him, and the son gets to introduce his dad to his brand new baby boy. That is the deadbeat dad's grandson. And I never think about my dad, but it really made me think about how nice it would have been if I'd been able to introduce him to my daughter, his granddaughter. I never think about these things, and of course the movie also juxtaposes this deadbeat dad with the living personification of kindness and compassion in Mr. Rogers, and there's just a real role model of how to be a decent man, and a role model of how not to be. So it's been playing on my mind a bit lately, and it feeds into the issue, I guess, that this chapter and the rest of the novel will kind of explore in amongst all the action-adventure stuff about the separation of parents and children, and the lasting wounds. Also, in Australia here, it's been a time of unprecedented, disastrous, catastrophic bushfires, and our Prime Minister has been singularly unimpressive and absent and self-centred and non-compassionate, and he has been an absolute disgrace. His self-interested buffoonery and idiocy seems to know no bounds, and I can't help thinking that his parents failed. They had not raised their son to become a good man, and now we find all 24 million of us throwing our hands up in despair, saying, when are we going to meet the grown-up? When are we going to meet the actual man? One thing about the writing of this chapter, earlier in the course of drafting this chapter, I was going to have it that Cheeky Albert was Diana's nickname for her little baby boy. So he didn't just name the ship after his barely remembered name, but he also named it after his barely remembered nickname, so it's even more personal than that. But then I thought, no, if Diana remembers that that was her nickname for her little boy, then something would have been up as soon as the pirate ship showed up in chapter 1 or chapter 2. She would have gone, hang on a sec, that's the nickname of my baby boy. So, yeah, it's just Albert. Hopefully that's not too much of a stretch. I don't know. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments. So that's it. This week, yeah, that chapter is just one scene in this chapter. I think it's the first chapter I've had which has just had one scene, but it was time for the showdown, and navigating this rocky, fractured, broken relationship from here on in will be interesting, and yeah, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable and a bit tender and sensitive at the moment. Some of these issues are close to home, and yeah, not just having the father who left when I was 6, but yeah, my mum dying 6 years ago now. That will also feed into what happens with Salazar and Diana too, I think. They are restored to each other, and she certainly never expected that, and he didn't expect to learn that he wasn't abandoned. She didn't abandon him, and so I look forward to exploring how they move forward together after this reunion. That's the end of the third part of the novel. Now, as I say, I need to start planning those final 12 climactic chapters which will bring it all barreling home to a hopefully satisfying conclusion. See you next week for chapter 40.